The MAGURA V5, named after a Slavic goddess of war, is the 5th generation of Ukrainian sea drones that have been in service since late 2022, at least. They were developed by the GUR, the country's military intelligence arm headed by Commando Kirill Budanov, and are piloted by the shadowy Group 13. The group's commander, himself codenamed 13, has understandably revealed little about their inner workings. However, we do know quite a lot about their capabilities after Ukraine showed them off at an arms fair in Turkey in 2023. Each boat is 18 foot long, 5 foot wide, can cruise at 25 miles an hour, and has a top speed of 50 miles an hour. They have cameras mounted on the top to allow the pilots to guide them, and are thought to be powered by an electric motor to reduce their heat signature, and are made of plastic to reduce their radar cross-section. The suicide variants, which were used for the attacks on the warships, are thought to carry up to 300 kilograms of explosives, each of which are activated by fuses mounted in the nose. But other variants, used for surveillance and spying, can be mounted with sophisticated sensors like gyroscopes, laser rangefinders, and marine radars. A Starlink dish mounted on the back helps keep them in contact with the shore, but they are thought to have multiple means of communication in case this is jammed. Ukrainian sources say they are even working on an AI-powered version which can pick its own targets. MAGURA is not the only sea drone in use by Ukraine either. The SBU, Ukraine's equivalent of the Russian FSB, has a craft of its own called the Sea Baby. Whilst it looks the same as the MAGURA, it is actually slower, heavier, and packs a bigger wallop, carrying almost 3 times the amount of explosives. For that reason, the Sea Baby is mostly used against static targets, such as bridges and ships in port, unlike the MAGURA, which is nimble enough to catch them on the move. The Sea Baby was also deployed first, and was responsible for attacks on the Black Sea Fleet dating all the way back to October 2022. On that occasion, 7 surface drones combined with air drones were used to attack the fleet's main port at Sevastopol in Crimea. Footage showed the craft dodging bullets on their way into the port, where they struck and damaged 2 vessels. One was the Ivan Golubets, a minesweeping ship, and the other was the frigate Admiral Makarov. Hitting the Makarov was a particular propaganda win for Ukraine because it had recently been promoted to flagship of the Black Sea Fleet after the Moskva was destroyed. However, the attack failed to sink either vessel, and similar strikes on 5 other ships, including the Ivan Kurs, Olengorsky Gornyak, and Sig oil tanker, produced the same result: damage, but no sinking. By far the most successful attack carried out by a Sea Baby was a strike on the Kerch Bridge, the $4 billion connection between Crimea and mainland Russia. The raid took place in July of last year and saw 2 drones loaded with a combined 1,700 kilos of explosives slam into 2 of the bridge's support columns. The blast destroyed part of the roadway, closing it to military and civilian traffic, though the more important railway, which runs parallel, was undamaged. But perhaps the most important aspect of the attack was as a propaganda victory for Ukraine. The bridge is a point of pride for Putin, a huge physical demonstration of his claim that Crimea rightfully belongs to Russia, and a brag that he was able to seize it with such ease back in 2014. For that reason, and because it is important as a military supply route, it is extremely heavily defended. The fact that Kiev's men were able to knock out the bridge, even temporarily, punctures the image of the Russian military as a supreme force. And it also shows up Putin's imperialist dreams about retaking Ukrainian territory as a vulnerable fantasy, at least in the eyes of the people he hopes one day to rule. So, what does all of that mean for the war? Well, obviously every Russian battleship that goes down to the bottom of the sea is also good for Ukrainian morale, and the morale of its allies. Especially since it comes at a particularly dark moment of the conflict, when there is little good news from the battlefield. Not only does it keep public and political support behind the war effort, but it proves that Ukraine can still achieve the unthinkable if given the right kind of support. That doesn't have to mean handing over weapons. Both the Sea Baby and Magura are produced domestically, but it does require money and know-how. If Ukraine can prove the help it is already being given is being put to good use, it encourages allies to give more help in the future.